I should not call to order until 6:30.
You gotta wait till David gives you a thumbs up. All right, there you go.
All right, Thursday, June 13th. I'd like to call to order. It is 6:30, the Plan Commission meeting. We take a roll call.
Finkler,
Here.
Myers,
Here.
Albright,
Present.
Majewski,
Here.
Traxler, Monday. We have a quorum.
And I assume the meeting was noticed properly.
Yes, it was noticed.
Okay. Number 4, I'd like to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second to approve the agenda.
The motion to approve the agenda was by Finkler and second by Hajewski. Approved Planning Commission or Plan Commission minutes from May 20th.
All in favor.
What's that?
We need an all in favor
Oh,
to vote on the agenda.
all right. Look for a vote.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All against? All right, number 5, approve Plan Commission minutes from May,
Did we didn't approve the agenda. We need to approve the agenda.
I did.
Oh, we did.
I was first.
That's what we just needed the I for, right?
Yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
needed to vote for. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. Now we're doing the minutes.
all right. Next, looking for a motion to approve the Plan Commission minutes from May 20th, 2024 meeting, discussion, possible action.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Albright will second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes by Finkler and second by Albright. And next on the agenda is certified, do I have to vote again? All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Perfect. All right, next on the agenda, number 6, certified survey map, George and Desiree Wolf. Discussion, possible action.
Yes, this CSM is at the corner of Poet Street and Farnham Street. Essentially, it's moving a lot line from moving it to the east or to the west. So Lot 2 will be bigger than it was previously. Up on the screen here, you can see this is the new lot line here. All the setbacks are met related to, with the new line, the setbacks are met by, for the shed and all the side lot lines, the lot sizes, all the subdivision and zoning regulations are met on this. And Rupert Milke did a review on the state code surveying requirements, included a letter with some recommended changes. So staff recommends approval with a conditional approval with the changes in the review letter.
Where's that review letter?
Should be right after the staff report. The review letter just goes over just some state statute stuff as far as a few things to include on the CSM, things like that, and so some easement stuff, and so they just need to tidy that up. And
So are we looking for a motion on this or just?
Discussion.
a motion.
I'll move to approve the, certified survey map with with the, once the adjustments are made per Rupert Milkie.
I would second that.
We have a motion to approve the certified survey map with the Rupert Milkie amendment. Motion by Finkler and a second by Hajewski. All in favor?
Aye.
All against? All right, next on the agenda, number 7, review fence code 114-101, discussion and possible action.
Yeah, last time, you gave me some direction, do some homework, and come back with some language. You wanted to see some language with some flexibility to allow people to come and ask this body for an additional 2 feet on fence height. I've included that language in the draft code. Some other background stuff, I included the language on vision triangles that is referenced in the ordinance. There was the question of whether or not the UDC code, Uniform Dwelling Code, has regulations for the installation of fences, and it does not. I confirmed that with our building inspector. The Uniform Dwelling Code is strictly for 1- and 2-family homes, so those aspects of that. So there isn't regulations to that effect. So, let's see, so if I scroll down to the language, I highlighted in section 5, where it currently says must comply with vision triangle requirements. So that's already in there, and it doesn't show up very well. This number 9 here, maybe shows up better in your hard copy packet, but this is the draft language here. The Plan Commission may, and this is almost word for word from what's, from the section in the parking ordinance as far as parking reductions. The Plan Commission may authorize up to an additional 2 feet of fence wall or hedge height, a plot plan that shows fence location, fence type, reasons for the request, and any other related information to the satisfaction of the Plan Commission and the City Council shall be included in the application. The property owner or owners must attend the Plan Commission meeting remotely or in person. So my guess is that you guys want to see that, have that, ask questions of that person, and this gives that expectation that they need to be here for that request. They can't just send it in and expect it.
Great, thanks.
So the height requirements remain the same, it's just that if they want a variance, they would come to us.
Variance light, as
Variance.
Uriah said. It wouldn't be an actual variance, but it would,
Okay.
it's added flexibility to go up to 2 additional feet.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
and so number 5 was highlighted, and the reference on the next page is
The link,
the
yeah.
details behind that?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
And then, also, you had some language regarding how do we deal with a dilapidated fence and that kind of stuff. Well, section 18 of our municipal code, property maintenance code, any law enforcement official can enforce all of these different things in here. And if we scroll down to section 18-576, there's some highlighted areas, number 5 there. The exterior of the premises, the exterior of structures, and the condition of accessory structures shall be maintained so that the appearance of the premises and structure shall not constitute a blighting factor. So basically, that says if a fence is falling apart, there's an opportunity for enforcement action to come into place. We go down a little bit further, under C, general maintenance. The exterior of every structure or accessory structure, except farm structures, including fences or enclosures, shall be maintained in good repair. So, except for farm structures. So I can read that a couple different ways. The same shall be maintained free of broken glass, it goes on. So I guess I'm reading that the exception is for the farm structure. But I think you could, the way this wording is, you can maybe make a case that a fence or enclosure attached to a barn, there's an exception for that when it's tied to a farm building. But these are the two areas where, and then further down, okay, yeah, enforcement, 18-579, the section shall be enforced by any law enforcement officer of the city of Columbus. So that's kind of how we deal with dilapidated fences.
I have a quick question. So what constitute a farm structure? So, and the reason I'm asking is because I know there's a few older homes in town that they technically, it's probably an old farm building that they use as a garage.
I would say a farm structure is one that's actively used by farming activities. So if it's, pardon?
Versus residential zoning?
If you can have a farm, you could have a farm, an active farm in a residential zone, a non-conforming farm that's active. So it could be in a residential zone theoretically, but it's an active farm. So to me, it's what is the active use at the time? And gardening to me would not be a farm.
Chickens?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say
If it's
that too.
if it's a commercial
Operation.
agricultural operation, then
Okay.
I would call it a farm structure.
All right, are we looking for
I have one quick question yet.
a
So on 8, a property survey is required prior to construction of any fence less than 2 feet from any property line. I had someone reach out to me that lives in an older area of Columbus that said that there's houses that doesn't really even like give space to put a fence with that case, and it costs like $2,500 to do a survey. Do we have like any guidance on that?
So you're saying that there isn't, not quite following, that there isn't space
Yeah.
for a fence at the property line?
No.
2 feet off.
Oh.
Off.
Yeah,
I don't think that's an unreasonable requirement. If you, I actually would, I don't like that this allows you to put a fence on the property line. I think that the code should read that all fences. I would, in my opinion, the code should read that all fences must be 2 feet back. I think the fact that you give them the option to do it if they at least do a survey to make sure it's right, because otherwise, if you're putting up a fence and you haven't done a survey, what are the odds that you're actually going to get it right?
yeah. I think you're right in the older parts of town where you have garages behind a house, plus the setbacks, or there's smaller lots as it is. There's not a lot of, you put 2 feet in on one side, 2 feet in on the other side, and then 2 feet on the back lot line. Now suddenly, you've really collapsed that space. But you make a good point too. It's so it's a
Right.
policy decision. It's a
Right.
judgment decision on how you want to proceed on this.
Right.
Is the survey really cost that much? That surprises me. I would have thought $500 to $700. I didn't realize they were that expensive. $2,500 for a certified lot survey?
I've heard around 500-600,
Okay.
but I'm not don't quote me on that.
Right,
but-
no.
But there's been a couple cases, because I was curious, because there's other parts of the state where conditions are different that, a survey
Right.
is $2,500. But what I remember is going, oh, that's all it cost? Because what I'm used to in northern Wisconsin is much more and that's, when you're in a city, a lot more survey work has already been done, and it's easier to do it, so it costs
I
less.
think the cost of a survey will vary depending on how recent the previous one was.
Yes.
If the corner markers and so on are easy to find versus if they have to do a significant amount of work
Correct.
to determine
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah, I was just gonna make that comment. I live in an older lot, and our survey, they're right there. You do a little metal detector and you're done, and I can't imagine it'd be more than a couple $100 and 15 minutes of somebody's time.
Is it required that they have to have a survey?
If
That
they're,
would-
if they're gonna have the fence up to the lot line,
Yeah.
Up to the lot line?
or less than 2 feet from the lot line.
Okay.
So if you're gonna be 2 feet, and of course, the way that works, I think I'm 2 feet,
Right, you're
But you
guessing.
got enough to work with.
there's room for, the idea there, if you're putting it where you think it's 2 feet off, you're not gonna be at the lot line. Of course, that's not a perfect science.
No, okay.
So just for a little bit more context, it was between, $2,000 and $2,000 because the lot lines haven't been updated since they were established in 1854.
Yeah, that very well could be true. It's like Steve said, we have a very old city here, and depending on what has been done from a survey perspective, there could be a lot more work involved.
Yeah, they probably had to go through land records.
So I personally like at least the survey, if you're gonna have a fence up to lot line, the survey requirement should at least reduce the potential opportunity for having it across the line, but it also doesn't address fence maintenance.
Yeah, maintenance is why I don't like the way this is written. I think that any fence should be 2 feet back so that the owner of the fence can maintain both sides without being on the neighbor's property.
But this is saying, though, that if it is less than 2 feet, you have to have a survey. Are you saying that survey or not is 2 feet, is what you're saying?
That would be my
Okay,
opinion.
okay.
And that's,
Sorry, I was just trying to
it's been that
understand.
way in other cities I've lived in.
Okay.
I was surprised to see that you could put one on the lot line. I mean, I think it's good that if you are going to let them, that you do require the survey, as we said, to make sure that it's in the right place, because that should greatly, 2 feet, I agree, that's enough of a safety margin that the homeowners or landowners probably not going to be wrong by more than 2 feet, but, yeah.
Right. So so we're clear, so the ordinance is 2 feet, up to 2 feet of the lot line, and no certified map is required, but if we want to do it on the lot line, they need to do a survey.
Yeah.
Right, and, okay.
So are we voting on the addition of 9, or are we voting on everything? I don't know if anything else was.
The only addition here is number 9.
Okay. I'll move to approve adding number 9 to the section 114-101 fences, walls, and hedges.
Albright will approve that, well, second that.
Our next, if this is what you want to see adopted, the next thing we need to do is schedule it for a public hearing. So, wasn't sure, I think all of us, we weren't sure where this was gonna end up. I think you guys are at least close to where you wanna go. So if this is delayed, if you wanna, amend it to include number 9, I guess we would need a approved motion to, set up a public hearing,
Okay.
to move this to the next step.
I'll amend my motion to approve section 114-101 fences, walls, and hedges to add number 9 to go to a,
Public hearing.
oh, what was that again?
Public hearing.
Public hearing.
Albright will second.
We have a motion and a second to amend 114-101 fence walls and hedges to move to a public hearing. Schedule a public hearing. Motion by Finkler and a second by Albright.
Great. Now the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All against? Motion carries. Presentation, number 8, tax increment financing presentation and discussions.
All righty, let's see here. I gotta find, it's on this, here we go.
You've seen it? Have you, did you show that at the,
It was at the council training, or council orientation in
Yeah.
April, I think it was.
I also attended that. Did you attend that?
I did, but
So-
Steve didn't, I don't think.
Steve, you did not? All right.
So I'll, and I can, what I can do is I can send this out to everybody too, so you have that, have this. This is pretty much an overview from kind of a presentation that was last year. You'll hear me, tax increment financing, you'll hear me, that's the tool to do the project, and the tax increment district, or TID, is the tool used, the boundary of the tool, so like the boundary on the map. A lot of people use those acronyms interchangeably, so if someone just says TIF, just know they mean, you just kind of know. TIF, TID, you'll hear me use both, but that's, and the big thing here, this is the graphic that communicates how TIF works. Let's say you have a number of properties that total $1 million in improvements and land and improvement value, and that $1 million is here. You create a tax incremental district, so all your units of government, your technical college, your school district, your county, and the city are getting their taxes off of this value here. You create a TIF district, or TID, and then any new improvements, new value above that $1 million, that captured assessed value goes to the city for a period of time.
Directly.
Directly. So there's different, depending on what kind of TID you do, it goes for a little bit different kind of time here. So then those payments can, they can be a loan, a grant to a business, and it can help to pay for public improvements like an upgraded road or sewer, that kind of stuff. So then when that TIF expires here, then all that new value above this line gets reallocated to all those units of government again. So the school district, the county, the technical college, and the city. So in this time period, the city, if there's new value, the city is gaining that tax revenue exclusively to help make it happen, to pay expenses and to pay for projects.
And those typically have a life cycle of 5 years?
Usually around 20, the whole
20.
district,
Okay.
but usually your spending time is generally around 10. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds in
Yeah,
this, but
that's fine.
usually about 10 years on spending, and then the second 10 years is paying, because you could borrow against these improvements too, one way to do it. So I guess this kind of shows it here again. But it really is it's really a fabulous tool. But there is a cost, to all the jurisdictions, because they're temporarily not getting that new revenue. They're still getting the revenue they got originally, but it's really used for economic development and redevelopment. And it's a way for public and private sectors to work together, so.
There are limits of how much can be in TIFs in your
Right.
city, right? Due to
Right.
percentages.
So like right here, has to be less than 12% of the total equalized value. So you can't TIF the whole city. You gotta be strategic and think about it. These are the number of, the combination of TIF districts that are out there, mixed use, industrial, blighted, and so like the time period, these two, mixed use and industrial, the max life is 20 years, and these other ones, the blighted one, like the downtown TIF is 27 years. So it is a little bit different. And again, this is some of the, there's, development, redevelopment, costs, you have to have cash flow, all these different 4 things. The Joint Review Board is representatives from the school district, the county, and so they go through and they go over the but-for test, that a development would not happen but for the test. So, that's kind of that's one of the things that's thought about when we go through creating these things. And so you can see here, you can do a feasibility study, do background work, do an initial meeting with the Joint Review Board, have a public hearing at the Plan Commission, have a governing body approval, and then Joint Review Board does a final approval, and then the state approves it as well. So there's a lot of you have to have a good timeline in there set up. This is the people that are involved in creating a TIF district. So that's essentially the Joint Review Board. These are the eligible costs: public works improvements, cash grants, professional services, administration, and then you can also address for projects that impact the district. If something's within a half mile in the district, you can cover that project cost as well. So you can't use TIF for creating new municipal buildings. Can't do that. Anything financed with a utility user fee, so like water plant stuff, you couldn't do that. General government expenses, things like that. So there's limits to, you can't use it just for anything.
Could you build a municipal building in a TIF?
Yeah, in a TIF, you just can't use TIF money.
Right, but there would still be a benefit to that would be additional taxes in that, or
Well,
that property values would go up in that area.
Well, government, public buildings are tax exempt, so there wouldn't be
No
tax. It would add value from a market perspective, but it wouldn't bring in revenue from a taxing jurisdiction because those public buildings are non-taxable. So you can do a minimum of, or a maximum of 4 amendments during the life of the district, so you really do want to get the district as right as you can in the beginning. That kind of thing. You can subtract property, you can add property, but still got to meet that 12% test. This is expenditure period. Maximum time period ends 5 years prior to the end of the maximum life for all districts. So, yeah, for those other districts that were 20 years, that would be at year 15. If it's a 27-year one, then that would be year 22, so it's a little bit different. So, little nuances depending on the type of TIF you have, but you just got to know that, hey, there's a spending time limit on what you can spend, and apply that. You can keep that TIF in place for the maximum life if you collected sufficient funds to pay for project expenses. Remaining funds can be distributed to taxing jurisdictions. If you got money left, you can split that up to share that with other units of government. unreimbursed project costs become general liability of the municipality. So one of the things, that's why a lot of our TIFs are pay-as-you-go TIFs. That means is we only pay for money if there is increment. So, but let's say for some municipalities will let's say they give a grant, borrow and grant some money to someone to build a building, but they build it half as big as you thought they would, then suddenly there's not as much revenue coming in. And so then if the TIF district expires and you don't generate enough revenue, then the municipality, not the district, ends up picking up that cost. So that's the reason for the pay-as-you-go, or pay-go for short, is why we use that so much, is because it really puts the onus on the developer to go through on that. So for in Columbus, we have 6 existing districts. TIF 4, that's north of 151, up by Fromm, and up in that area. That TIF is doing very well. That's been in place in 2015. Number 5, TIF number 5, that's over by Countryside and that part of James Street. That's been in place in 2019. We haven't seen any increment there, but when Dollar Tree gets going this year, probably we'll see, depending on how quick they get that building up, we might see some increment in 2025. Otherwise, it'll be 2026 to see increment value there. And TID 6, that's the downtown, that was created in 2021, and there's hasn't been any new development, and that's the challenge on that one, is we're in a redevelopment phase down there. So we've had some other tools used down there for internal remodels, but no new development that needs to either happen on vacant land or kind of have a redevelopment project where where someone, private sector, whoever, acquires some land and redevelops property to a higher value than what's there today.
So adding apartments, would that increase the value of a building down there?
Yes.
And then the property be reassessed after the building permit? Is that how that works?
So those are our districts, and of course, we're in discussions on TID number 7. Here are the maps. This is TID 4. Fromm is up here. They're finishing up a warehouse building right now, so that's additional increment. TIF number 5, here's the map there. This is where the Dollar Tree is going to be, right here. This is Countryside. So there's some vacant land in here. That's opportunity for expansions if someone wanted to. We're going to go through that stuff, and here's downtown. Goes essentially from the river area, Second Ward Creek area, up to the City Hall, over to the railroad tracks. So, I know I went over that quick. Any questions?
I think you had a slide on the approval of, or the development of the TID. It looked like the technical colleges were a part of that.
Yeah, I can go back. The Joint Review Board had, come on. Which one of those? There's a municipal member, a public member, a school district member, a technical college member, and a county member that make up the joint review board. So those people fulfill those roles in the process.
So nobody from the planning commission or the CDA is a part of that process?
Possibly, it depends who that municipal member is. It doesn't have to be a plan commission member. It can be, and I'm not sure if well, anyways, plan commission, you're getting a kick at the cat through the approval of it in bringing it up to the joint review board for review, so you guys are voting on that. But I didn't look up who the current members of the GRB is, but I can find out.
We
who
saw
they are.
presentations from Ayers last year, and it clearly was a CDA member. You did mention the planning commission in one of your slides, but I didn't see anything about the CDA. I don't
Yeah, I'm guessing maybe that the municipal member might end up being a CDA member, but I'm not sure who currently
Okay.
appointed.
Any questions? Thanks, Mike.
All right.
Thank you.
Number 9, code enforcement update and announcement.
Yeah, just wanted to let you guys know that you've probably seen some of our posts, Facebook posts out there making people aware of some property maintenance related things. We've been a little light on enforcement, and we've had people in the community, we've heard some complaints about some of how properties are kept up. So this is phase 1, is part of educating people and trying to get them to be aware of kind of what's expected. You know, the whole idea is if we have attractive looking community that helps keep property values up, and if you want to sell your house, you know, it's easier to do that when your neighbors are keeping up their property. So phase 1 is some of the social media posts you're seeing. The next phase is our police officers will be communicating with, we're not going to be nitpicking here, we're looking at the obvious abusers, and that's just letting them know that they are in violation and they need to kind of come into compliance. And then at some point here, phase 3 is if they don't come into compliance, then we start going down the road of citations and those kinds of things. All those various enforcement mechanisms listed in the code. So definitely wanted to get out some public information to the public on this item, and so that people are aware that this is coming, and they can kind of get to work if they have any issues on their property.
Along with what you were saying about the food truck stuff, when we were doing a bed and breakfast evaluation, there was a lot of discussion about parking in driveways, and if the requirement was you must park on a gravel or the driveway part of it, you couldn't drive over into the yard. But after learning that, I mean, obviously, when you drive around town, there's a lot of campers in the middle of front yards.
There's some options for, I'd have to look up the code exactly. There's some options of parking on the grass and the side in the rear yards, if I'm remembering correctly, and there might be an exception for one vehicle in the front yard, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, there is a bunch of stuff. There's limits to what you can park, campers and stuff parking in the street, boats and stuff. There's limits to what you can do there. We really want to see recreational vehicles parked behind the house or on the side of the house or in a storage unit off-site.
But all you're doing is just making awareness of the ordinance, right?
Right. So hopefully that'll get people to be more aware, and then here later in the summer here at some point, then there could be some, if people aren't stepping up. And again, our enforcement team is really looking at getting the obvious violators. We're not looking out to get every little piece. And the one thing I learned through this process, the maximum height limit for grass in the city of Columbus is 12 inches. I've never seen that in a community.
It's rained a lot this year.
It has. So that may be something as a city you may want to address to take effect for 2025. Because most communities, it's going to be 6, sometimes 8, but a lot of times 6.
I have a question about that. So I don't disagree with you, but I do think that you might get some pushback with people that want to have like a prairie in their yard.
There is an option for a process for getting approval on a natural lawn.
Okay,
So we do accommodate for that.
okay. Another comment, so I know you mentioned recreational vehicles and whatnot, and I would assume that would include like trailers, like travel trailers, you know, to
Yes.
store, okay, because, yeah, that, I mean, I see that too.
Especially on our more narrow streets, things can really get tight.
Should we put the grass discussion, future agenda items, or is that the planning commission or the plan commission's?
Is that enough?
We can put that on I can consult with the city attorney and the administrator and see if that's the route we should go through the plan commission. Because I think that's in the building code part, and we did that before, so I'm guessing yes. So grass height, you can put that in there.
If you were doing something with grass height, I've heard of people doing no mow May, wanting to leave, you know, some flowers and whatever, let it go for a month for bees and so on. I don't know if you address an
Well, you
exemption
can
for
make it
1 month
effective
or something.
June.
Yeah, you know,
As of
you might
June
have some
1st. I know
timing.
we do have some people that do no mow May, and I know that we have some people that like to let their yards go a little bit longer in the spring.
It's all part of the discussion, right?
Right. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
So we could put that future agenda item.
All right. Anything else, Mike?
Nope.
Any other discussion? All right, moving on to number 10, future agenda items. We just talked about grass. Is there any discussion about other? Anything from any of the other committees?
I probably might be able to put some time in on the parking regs. That's something we could work on, because our parking requirements are pretty tight.
All right, any other discussion? This is your favorite.
That's mine.
Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Albright will second.
We have a motion to adjourn by Finkler and a second by Albright. All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Motion carries.